Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence. This is day 6 of 31 of this 31-day series I am doing. I am recording it December 2025, but of course, this is a timeless reading. So if you've come across this video, I trust that there is a message for you. So we are doing readings every day for the month, and this is all about recalibrating your energy and getting you on your highest timeline. So as always, I'm going to start with an oracle card and an astrology card, and then we're going to go into the tarot from there. So let's dive right in. So we have the dignity card for our oracle card, and this has a dragon on it, and it says, "Take pride in yourself and all that you have become. Feel honored by your choices, achievements, and actions." And so with the dragon, definitely feeling that accomplishment for the transformation that you've undergone. And with the Jupiter card, of course, this is all about expansion, growth, abundance, even luck. And this is some really exciting energy because the last few readings we've been talking about our healing journey, and even throughout the heavy energies, taking that empowered stance and action forward. And so today is all about remembering to have that moment of feeling that beautiful embodied energy of how proud you are of how far you've come and all the inner work you've done. So I'm going to read the Jupiter card. It says, "Jupiter is associated with the Roman god Jupiter, ruler of heaven and earth, thought of as a fair and just protector. Jupiter is often thought of as the planet of luck and expansion. The desire to understand the bigger picture, to prosper, and to experience joy are a big part of Jupiter's influence. Optimism, faith, and spirituality play roles in these issues." Okay, so let's go on to some tarot cards. So we have the 5 of Cups, the Queen of Wands, 9 of Wands, and Ace of Cups. We got the Ace of Cups in yesterday's reading as well, so that's very interesting. So with the 5 of Cups and the Queen of Wands and the 9 of Wands together, there's this energy of moving out of this state of disappointment and into this empowered, potentially divine feminine energy, if you identify as that. Of course, it's not necessarily corresponding to gender, but with the Queen of Wands, it's that magnetic and independent energy. It's that feminine fire. She's creative. She's confident. She's got charisma. She's got courage and self-trust. This is the embodiment of someone who is stepping into her power, standing in her identity unapologetically. It's just such a bold and radiant figure, especially in your spirituality. And with the Jupiter card, this is you expanding your self-worth and stepping into the spotlight of visibility, however that resonates for you. This is somebody who knows who they are, who knows what they bring. And so after this phase of grief with the 5 of Cups, grief, regret, disappointment, you may have lived in a state of fixating on what was lost rather than what, remained. With the 5 of Cups, there's 5 cups, 3 of which are overturned, but 2 of which are still full and standing. And so the 5 of Cups is also about not just the disappointment you feel, but also the forgetting to recognize what is still there. And sorry, my cat is trying to get all in the middle of this reading here, so kind of distracting me. But it's that tunnel vision, right? That you're fixated on the past pain and you're not really able to see what opportunities are there for you. So, after a phase of the 5 of Cups, you have this ability to process your emotions and step into a more empowered emotional perspective, which is where the Queen of Wands comes in. And, with the dignity card and the Jupiter card being the overarching themes for this reading, I'm definitely picking up on you being in this transition or coming out of this transition from the Five of Cups to the Queen of Wands, from that more negative, lower frequency energy as you were healing from your wounds and your pain and suffering, and stepping into a more empowered embodiment of this divine feminine. And wherever you are at on that journey and however that resonates for you, there's an overarching ask from Spirit to recognize how far you've come and be proud of yourself. So with the Nine of Wands, it's also talking about the inner strength that we have to, move forward and to conquer whatever struggles arise. It's that resilience and persistence and endurance on your journey, all while maintaining boundaries and protecting your energy and, knowing when and how to defend yourself. It's that final push before you get to this state of success. And again, with the dignity card, you have been knocked down, you have endured heartbreak, and from that, you have learned to stand up for yourself. You've learned self-respect. You've learned dignity. You know now that you have inherent worth. You deserve self-love, self-respect, self-esteem, as well as love and respect from others, but in the context of your internal journey and your internal personal transformation. You have come so far to get to a place of knowing what you deserve. And again, back to that Queen of Wands energy, just knowing your self-worth. And so with the Ace of Cups, you're coming out of this very meaningful period of inner work and endurance, and you have cultivated this resilience. And from that, you were getting this emotional renewal. We talked about this in day 5 just yesterday because we got the Ace of Cups. The ability to feel love, encounter new love, open your heart, expand your sense of love and joy and positive feelings, to welcome in divine blessings, to have that spiritual awakening. You've completely opened yourself up to this new timeline, this new portal. And it's, your heart is overflowing. And so after this phase of hardship, this is your blessing. This is your emotional renewal. You being ready to love again from a place of dignity, from a place of knowing your worth. And whether this is external love and relationships or just you entering this place of self-love. In my readings, if you are familiar, if you've listened to many of my readings, you'll know that I don't really speak on outcomes when it comes to external things like relationships, like your twin flame or your divine counterpart or whatever it is that you may be going through. Because ultimately, these are collective readings. You could be on any given part of your timeline, and this could be any twin flame or karmic that you may be dealing with. But really, those are those soul contracts that we have and those soul connections and bonds that we form on our journey are meant to be tools for the true purpose of what we're here to do, which is to evolve and expand our own consciousness and self and allow that to ripple out to the rest of the planet. It's really not about success being measured as, your union or reunion with a particular person. So when we talk about new love or things like that, it's really not meant to be about you getting a new relationship or you falling in love or you getting reunion with your twin flame or with your soulmate or whatever it may be for you. This is about really embodying the love that we have worked so hard to cultivate and find, after a period of it being lost, after a period of being disconnected with ourselves, rekindle and tap back into that love and light that has always been flowing through us, but that we forgot for some period of time. Because as we are extensions of source energy, we have that love and abundance innately running through our body, flowing through our core. So when we get the Ace of Cups, this is about, especially following these cards, and talking about the transformational work we've been doing and, the grief we've overcome and the resilience we've built. This is about entering a new timeline, a new reality where you show up feeling love in ways you've never felt it before. Feeling safe and established with this Queen of Wands energy enough to open your heart and receive love that's going to honor you. And with the Jupiter just giving us these blessings, knowing that we are whole. It's a very beautiful energy. So let's see what else we can channel here. 5 of Swords, 10 of Swords, Magician, very interesting. Okay, so 5 of Swords is all about conflicts, especially those that are ego-driven. And I'm going to give a specific scenario that may resonate for you, as well as a more broad interpretation of the energy of this card. It is a card of tension and some kind of difficult conflict. And so specifically and more externally, the interpretation could be that you had a falling out with someone or a conflict, and perhaps you won the argument, but it's like a hollow victory, because even though you won, you lost something. Like maybe you lost their trust, or you isolated yourself when you didn't intend to. The 5 of Swords can also talk about manipulation, these toxic dynamics that you are walking away from, and engaging with this conflict and allowing your ego to kind of spiral you into these disagreements and battles with the other person or people is like a form of self-sabotage, because it's a misplacement of your energy. And so it's, in a more broad interpretation, is just your ego wanting to be right. So whether you've actually had a literal disagreement with someone, whether it's in your past or currently in your life, or whether this is just a general shadow side that's creeping up of your ego wanting to be right, wanting to prove itself, wanting to maybe even like bring up an old disagreement to kind of close it out, when ultimately like your soul is moved past it and has risen above it, but your ego kind of still wants to pick at it. So the message here is to make a decision about what you want your point of view to be. What's most important to you? Is it really about winning? Or is this about, making progress with whoever it is that you are in these dynamics with? Or even making internal progress and knowing what is worth your energy? Because when you misplace your energy or misplace your intentions, you're being called to pivot and have a more considerate view, not just towards others, but to yourself and towards what's in alignment with you, so that you can move forward and, kind of walk away from these egoic traps and karmic patterns with how you interact with others. So, yeah, and in general, I'm picking up on this energy or this message from Spirit to be aware of your energy. And this is in line with the Ten of Swords in terms of like what we're leaving behind, because this is something that maybe has come up in cycles over and over again. And with the Ten of Swords, it's like no more. But you may have been in dynamics where you were not honored or respected. You weren't treated with dignity, which you've now worked so hard to have a sense of inner dignity and a sense of self-worth that is just innately known to you. You feel it. You have a deep inner knowing of your self-worth now. But there were times in your past where you did not. And so in your dynamics, potentially with your relationships, your twin flame, if you are on that journey, you were in scenarios where you fell down a lot of ego traps and spirals and in disagreements that weren't worth your energy. And so you were being called by spirit to rid yourself of these habits, because you've done the work, you've done the inner work. So now when you are back in union, or when you are in a relationship, or, you know, having this opportunity to be faced with whatever challenges as you are mirrored, you know, because especially when you're dating or in love or in a relationship, that's when you're going to have the most valuable tests and challenges, because that person is going to mirror to you. And so that's when your ego is going to get the challenges, the triggers, that's like the juicy opportunities for growth and really integrated embodiment of all that you've worked on an internal level. You now have the opportunity to practice it in real time, in real life, with a real dynamic with somebody else. So Spirit is calling you to end this old way of showing up to these relationships, you know, where your ego can take charge and misplace your energy or allow you to forget, you know, what matters to you. So this is the end of that. I mean, this is where your dignity gets a fresh start, and you get the relationships and the dynamics that you want. And with the Magician here, I mean, this is about creating the reality that you want, creating the relationships you want. I mean, this is manifestation, right? You take that Five of Swords energy, you alchemize it, you know, you send light and love through your body, you tame your ego so that you can show up in a completely transformed way, because you've made that choice. You've recognized, you know, where you needed improvement with the Five of Swords. You recognized that you needed the end of that pattern, the end of that era. And with the Magician, you've called forth from a place of personal power, from a place of willpower, because you're making this choice. You've called forth greater alignment with how your soul wants to be embodied, with how your soul wants you to show up in your relationships and your dynamics with others. So this is manifestation. This is conscious creation on such a minute level, and such a specific example, but like this is that manifestation at work, in practice. You know, in the past, you would have shown up to a disagreement in a completely different energy, in that Five of Swords energy. And it seems like such a minor thing, like a minor disagreement or a minor egoic response, but it really does shape the way in which you nurture and feed your relationships. And especially for those of us who are in twin flame separation, or, you know, twin flame or not, if you've struggled in having healthy, you know, communication styles in your relationships, Spirit is reminding you of that Magician power that you have. You have the skills as well to do this, to transform how you show up, to achieve alignment between your intentions and your actions. You know, you intend to show up as a soul-aligned and heart-led individual with peace and love and patience and also boundaries, but, not being ruled by your ego. And so when you set that intention with conviction and move forward with actions that are aligned, you have just alchemized completely your energy and how you show up. And you are so much more powerful than you recognize. And that's why this dignity card is saying, take pride in all that you've become, all of your achievements, every choice, every action that led you to where you are now, that put you through this growth and this transformation. Like, take a minute to recognize. And with the Jupiter card, take a minute to recognize the growth, the expansion, the abundance that you have called in. And so I love that this Five of Swords came up in the cards, because it's such a specific example of a tension and a conflict, but this is manifestation at its core. Like, this is practically how it shows up. So I think this was a beautiful way for us to kind of see how the changes in the inner work, which can seem like such an abstract concept, for us to see how that shows up in our day-to-day and in our relationships. So I'm going to pull a couple more cards. I know that this is like already a lot, but I just feel drawn to draw a couple more. We have the Three of Cups and the Knight of Pentacles. We got the Three of Cups yesterday as well. So I would definitely check out yesterday's reading if you haven't already. I mean, I would recommend watching all of day 1 through 5 so you can get the full series. But with the Ace of Cups and the Three of Cups showing up today as well as yesterday, there's definitely some linkage there. But the Three of Cups is about celebration, friendship, community. It's that positive emotions about your soul family and how you show up in your connections and feeling that joy and being around people who support and uplift you. This card is when you really truly embody that sense of belonging to your community and that beautiful feeling of companionship. And so as you take this Five of Swords and alchemize it with the Magician into a more heart-led existence and showing up in that higher frequency, you can see how the people around you will change. That soul community will form around you. It won't be people who drain your energy. It will be people who uplift you, because likewise you show up in a way that's not draining or easily swayed or off track by your ego. You show up in a way that's also heart-led and secure and mature and from a place of knowing your value. And with the Knight of Pentacles, it's the slowest knight, but it is a very dependable energy. So again, this doesn't have to be this overnight transformation. You may still find yourself back in that Five of Swords energy. This may be a slow and steady transformation for you. But the Knight of Pentacles is one of, dedication and consistency. Like, you've committed to putting in this effort, to taking accountability and responsibility for how you show up. And that makes you reliable. That makes you somebody who can be trusted to build for the long term, to manifest and alchemize with long-term and sustainable results. And again, it's that progress. It's slow, but it's steady. You get to set your pace, and this is you showing up with that stability, that grounded aura about you. So, and with the Magician and the Knight of Pentacles together, it's this energy of building your life, maybe even building up to a new relationship, setting the foundation so that you can attract a new relationship or attract improvements in your existing relationship, whatever it may be for you. Brick by brick, right? Like that slow and steady progress, and with your dignity, with your self-worth, that Queen of Wands energy guiding you as you building something that's it's like I'm hearing built to last. And Jupiter, of course, is also supporting this expansion. I mean, this building with Jupiter and the Magician, I mean, that's powerful manifestational energy. And with the Knight of Pentacles grounding it down into a reliable and steady foundation, this is very powerful. So I hope you can feel this. I hope you can internalize just how beautiful your journey is, and the manifestation and the building that you're doing, the world building, the creating, the co-creating that you're doing with the universe through the intentions that you set, through the emotions you embody, with the Ace of Cups, through the resilience you've built with the Nine of Wands, through the wounds that you've healed and overcome with the Five of Cups. All of this contributing to this beautiful growth journey for you. So I'm going to leave this here. I hope that something resonated for you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back tomorrow for day 7. Bye.